Here I am again. It's me. Yeah, who? Gary. The name is Gary. Um, Dropping all that, trying to keep it a mystery thing. Silly little notion I had. Sometimes I do some of the stupidest things. Stupid ideas. Wanted to talk a little bit more about, excuse me, starting with words mostly. Because I seem to have been gravitating toward that in the first two videos. Words are a fascinating thing, and you can build a lot upon them and get into the other subject areas in esoteric philosophy and natural philosophy and of course any other subject then under the sun, as far as I'm concerned. Words, pretty basic. We don't think too much about them. We were given words when we went to school, and our parents taught us some of the first words, and we use them, and there's a lot of stuff about it though in school. It was just kind of glanced over, and we just accept, okay, this word means this, that word means that. Little Billy, little Mary, you can't use this particular word. Remember George Carlin and the 7 Dirty Words, and how he say, in some instances they could be used, and others they couldn't, and some words couldn't be used at all, and then in a certain context, of certain words they don't want you to use. And then we got a PC environment anymore, the politically correct environment, which is to me just a form of circumlocution. It's a method by which people will dance around a word. Even George Carlin talked about it one time, how language would change over time. We used to use certain words, and then somebody comes along and says, well, that's offensive. Well, let's word it differently. And it's funny because it's simple 1 to 2 syllable words end up becoming 3 or 4 words strung together, or multi-syllable words, to say something that just took one word to say at one time in our society. Alan Watts calls it circumlocution. He talked about one time Vacaville Prison in California. This was from a talk of his, I'm going to say, sometime around late 60s, early 70s, I think. Alan Watts was a philosopher, for lack of a better thing. I mean, I don't know if that's the totally correct title of all that he was about. Certainly he studied philosophy, so I guess that would make him a philosopher, and that's what his calling was. Brilliant man. Very easy to understand in many respects. He had a good vocabulary, but he didn't try to talk over people. You can really understand him. But as far as I'm concerned, almost anybody could understand him, really. If you just, in the beginning, if you're studying philosophy or something, you might not be familiar with certain things that he says, and it seems kind of foreign. Obviously, if you're a monotheist religion person, you might even just reject what he says at the very beginning and not pay attention at all. So, I mean, there's certain criteria before you begin to listen to someone like Alan Watts. But with certain prerequisites there, it doesn't take long for a person to be able to begin to understand what Alan Watts said. Certainly easier to listen to him than a lot of other speakers. I've listened to Alan Watts, and I don't idolize anybody or try to have a guru, and even Alan Watts cautioned against, in some ways, gurus. Told about the whole game of gurus. But I really have enjoyed listening to Alan Watts. Learned a lot. Terence McKenna, too. They differ somewhat, but there's so many things common, too, that they talk about. You begin to understand this as you look into these things, and you really want to know what's really true. You want true philosophy, the understanding of how things really are, as opposed to religious ideas, the ideologies of the world, the belief systems, which, as another individual on YouTube, Ken Wheeler, says that religion, I classify all the stuff under ideology too, because that also includes political ideas and stuff. So you could call politics, like a certain political party platform, a religion too, really. And again, Mark Passio brings this out. But Ken Wheeler, another YouTube channel guy, he says that all religion is secularized metaphysics. And of course, metaphysics is really about truth, philosophy, the true esoteric understanding of philosophical understanding. The word philosophy means the love of wisdom. So it's about truly wanting wisdom and the truth and loving that. And it's a study of that, getting down to the nitty gritty as opposed to what's your favorite fad of religion. All religion, again, political, traditional, conventional religion, um, whether it's the monotheism of Judaism or it's Christianity or the Islam, the Muslim belief. These things, and I guess to some extent, what would be classified, and I don't call these things pagan to be derogatory or whatever, but the monotheists that tout the idea of Jehovah God or Jesus Christ, Trinitarian God, they would say the other religions, a lot of them are pagan or heathen. There's a lot of different things about religion, and a lot of them, though, actually come close to the truth. They all have elements of truth, but they're just secularized truth, secularized metaphysics, true philosophy, the understanding of how reality really works and the true nature of what you could call God. But that's a term that, sometimes I hesitate to use because of the connotations of it. That's another thing about words, and Ken Willer can explain this more to people. Words, I guess, when they're originally coined, they have a denotation. Like I would consider it like a strict definition. I may be wrong in what I'm saying here slightly. I'm more of not a strict definition. I'd say an expansive definition, but that encompasses the right understanding of the use of that word as it's coined originally. And then societies tend to take those words and give them a connotation and more specific definitions or contextual definitions. Then they take on connotations, and oftentimes some of those connotations could be negative, and then people get offended by certain words and certain things. And it's just words. I mean, George Carlin spoke about this before in some of his stand-up routines and stuff. Of course, in the context of giving a comedic act on it all. But he spoke about these things and the ridiculousness of how people can get so hung up on words. And again, there's the study of what's called semantics, and I'm not deeply into it. I can't say that I'm collegiate level semantics study or student. And I'm not sure if that's even taught in the colleges largely anymore. I think it used to be. And, it's like a lot of other things. Certain institutions, the colleges, the universities might, after a while, decide that something it's not in the budget to allow to be studied anymore, to be taught. And it's dropped from the curriculum. But sometimes I think there's another agenda behind dropping them other than just saying, well, we can't just afford in the budget to have a professor here teaching this particular subject. I think sometimes they feel the subjects kind of make people a little too wise. And, George Carlin once said, and I can't remember the exact quote, but to the extent that there are those, we'll just put it this way, there are those who would just want us to be smart enough to run the machinery as slave workers for the keeping society going, while we'll just call them fat cats. I don't want to get into what I mean by that or who they are and name names or institutions. I mean, that's a whole other thing in itself as far as video content. They want us just smart enough to run the machinery, so to speak, of society, to be good, obedient workers, but not smart enough to know that we're being screwed over. And and that's why there's been a large dumbing down in society throughout, well, always to some extent, but there's different programs that are spearheaded, just like the Common Core education in America, various other things that have been used. And there's some people you can look up on the internet, of course, you can look up just anything. I can't remember the woman's name. She wrote some books about how America was being dumbed down because she was a person that was involved in things with the Department of Education, and she didn't like what she was seeing. So basically, she well, anyway, she pointed out the dumbing down of America, and there's been other individuals who've talked about this. Do your research, Google things, as long as it's still allowed, the information is freely available. But somebody's riding a motorcycle with a sidecar. Huh. Interesting. Looks like a little kid in a sidecar with his helmet on. Must be fun. Yeah. Forgot where I was at now. But there's a lot of, like Alan Watts said, a lot of, I know I'm kind of meandering around here now a little bit, but this isn't going to be a real telling video. It's just, again, I'm warming myself up more and more to do these videos and trying to refine my methodology to stick to certain points and make certain points, you know. Although I'm not a big fan of that, because we can get tons of speeches from people, we have for years, where they have certain main points and they give supporting detail. But I'm an integrated thinker, so I put a lot of different things into what I talk about and connect a lot of dots. So yeah, I do dance around a little bit in connecting various subject areas or aspects of life, because I want people to start integrating more. You know, it's, well, I'm just getting off the subject. Maybe I can talk about that some other time. But words are, well, you know, we can all go back into the Bible. You know, the Christians will say, oh yeah, it says that the power of life and death are in the tongue. And of course, they interpret that in certain ways, and I think just basically what that's saying, and it's just the whole idea that words are a construct that we use to describe something, especially abstract things. And we use them in a metaphorical sense, the words, to paint a picture of what something is like that we can't really show somebody totally directly. So we have metaphors. That's why we say things like, well, you know, here's just a simple example, and it's a, you know, metaphor. He's stubborn. He's a stubborn ox. And a simile, of course, is that he's stubborn as an ox. It uses the word like or as, and all the English teachers out there would be saying, he got it right, yes. And as I said in an earlier video, these are all just figures of speech, even personifications. When we give human attributes to an inanimate object or to a tree, something in nature or whatever that isn't really a human, at least not by the way we define humanity. I could get into all that, but so whether you're talking these, and I even figure analogies fall under this, you know, whether you're talking analogies, metaphors, mythologies, similes, metaphors, personifications, and there's a slew more of them too, really. These are just figures of speech. And again, as I said, figure means it paints a picture, gives a picture of an abstract idea that can be hard to visualize because, again, it's an abstract idea and there's nothing to show somebody sometimes, you know. We hope that, what I'd hope for those is you can see patterns in things, and you know there's a rhyme and reason to why things pattern. And science has done this with nature and tried to create models like the Bohr model of the atom. Of course, that's even archaic now. I don't know what they use now because they got quantum physics and there's s orbitals, p orbitals, you know, all this stuff. Again, I don't want to even get into that. Not that I'm an expert or anything, and I wouldn't even know exactly how to talk about quantum physics 100%. Certain aspects of it, I think, are incorrect. But yeah, models of things. Because, and they say, well, these things are made up of these electrons and stuff. I don't know about you, but I've never seen an electron. I've never seen these particles. But I'm getting, again, off track. Words. I have much more to say on words, but that's the end of this video for now. It's I don't know, it's already over 15 minutes, and I can put a longer one than on YouTube, but I'm trying right now to keep them at 15 minutes for the time being until I get myself more acclimated to this whole YouTube experience of putting videos on. And remember, shh, it happens. If you like this video, any of these videos I put on, you can like, subscribe, and if you think they're worthwhile at all, and I'm looking for ways to try to spend more time doing this, and the more time I can do this, this is my passion more, then I can, obviously I have to pay bills, and I hate this part to say this, but if you feel like you like the content and you want to donate, then by all means donate. Click the link in the description. Yeah, if you don't like this stuff and you think I'm full of crap and I'm an idiot or whatever, and you don't like the way I look, whatever it is, and you want to heckle me and be a troll, you can do that too. Have a good day.